Ahoy Shipmates, we're going to show a little love to SC-453. It's a long and meandering course, but we'll get there. Today we're setting course for the Caribbean. The place, Trinidad. The time, just after World War II broke out between the United States and Axis powers. Why Trinidad? The map shows us that Trinidad had a peculiar strategic importance. It blocks off the Gulf of Paria, an inland sea which, if properly protected, is an ideal center for handling traffic between the Atlantic and Gulf ports of the United States, the Guianas, Brazil, River Plate, and Africa. Tinker traffic between the Dutch West Indies and Africa passes the same way. Trinidad itself had oil, as did Venezuela, but the true commodity here was bauxite. Port of Spain was the world's main clearinghouse for the mineral at the time. And what's bauxite? It's an ore that's essential for aluminum production. No bauxite, no mass-produced aluminum. It was absolutely essential for countries spinning up for war material production. Bauxite mines in British and Dutch Guiana were situated near the Damara, Berbica, Caudica, and Suriname rivers, all which were protected by sandbars. That means a vessel had to have a draft less than 17 feet to navigate those areas. Don't even go down that wormhole unless you're ready to learn about barges and the Crete fleet. Those are fascinating in their own right, though. But going back, that means the British and Dutch had small bauxite haulers that would shuttle the material from the mines near the rivers to open water. The mineral was so important, the Allies had diverted many of the big ore haulers from the Great Lakes. These would then haul them to ports in the U.S. for processing. By 1943, Trinidad had become one of the most vital ports in the world. But still, how did the U.S. end up in Trinidad? We have to go back to 1940. Here we see the naval headquarters on Naval Base Trinidad. By September of 1940, the Limeys were being spanked pretty badly by the Germans. President FDR made the deal for 99-year leases to bases in the Western Hemisphere, while Churchill got 50 old tin cans. So we're in Trinidad, and NOB Trinidad was commissioned for operation on 2 September 1940. Captain Radford, United States Navy commanding. Yes, the future CNO Radford. For the first few months, his major concern was building the base and getting it running. He was not helped by the Germans. They sank a freighter carrying over $2 million worth of equipment as it was nearing Port of Spain. The Germans were running rampant over the area with their U-boats. That's where our little hero comes in. SC-453 was laid down on 24 September 1940 as PC-453 by the Fisher Boat Works out of Detroit, Michigan. She was commissioned USS PC-453 12 August 1941. She had a displacement of 134 tons. Her length was 111 feet 5 inches, and her beam was 16 feet 9 inches. She had a draft of 6'4" and a top speed of 21 knots. Her armament was one 3-inch gun, one 12.7 millimeter anti-aircraft gun, and one DCTY gun. This was for depth charges. I'm not going to go too much into detail on those now. That's another wormhole we don't want to crawl now. She was driven by two 770 horsepower General Motors diesel engines. This was the first SC to have this model diesel installed, and she had 2 shafts. She was an experimental design that came from the fiscal year 38 naval budget. She was one of 3 built, and I cannot find the information that confirms this, but she may have been the first vessel in the entire United States Navy equipped with sonar. She either was the very first or one of the few first. General consensus seems to be that it was first used on her. A fascinating bit of trivia is that PC-453 was the first formal commissioning of a line vessel on the Great Lakes since Commodore Oliver Perry, younger brother to Please Join the World Japan Perry, built his wood fleet on Lake Erie in 1812. This was fitting as Commodore Perry died in the same region of Venezuela where SC-453 served. She was reclassified SC-453 on 8 April 1943. She never had any confirmed kills in her service during World War II. She was transferred to the United States Coast Guard on 20 November 1945 and commissioned USC GC Air Aposet WAVR 411. She was then transferred to the Haitian Coast Guard, yes, Haiti, in 1947 and renamed 16 Aout 1946 GC2. Yes, that was her name, 16 Aout 1946. By 1957, she was laid up in poor condition and placed up for sale and sold. Here we see her at the Fisher Boat Works, with a nice aft shot in the crew's quarters. Notice how the mess and bunks were one in the same area. Freaking better not find any happy socks with my midrats. As for what happened to our girl, she was reported by Jane's Fighting Ships, 1964 edition, as laid up in reserve in poor condition and will probably be sold or scrapped. Last mention in Jane's was reported in 1968 as in reserve. Maybe she ended up as a privateer or sank. Maybe she was scrapped or taken over by some drug runner or fisherman. I like to think that she beached herself somewhere and is looking over the Caribbean fondly, remembering her old days at the dance. Why did I make a whole video dedicated to a boat? Sorry, not sorry. I will always, till the day I die, refer to anything that floats as a boat. Bubbleheads for life. Anyways, going on, a boat that I have no idea what happened. Maybe it's the former devil dog in me, but I always like an underdog. Here we have probably what is arguably one of the most strategic ports in the world at the time, and this little subchaser comes in. She came in, did her duty. She may have not any noted sinkings, but putting this little boat in this port at this time is equivalent to putting an Essex-class carrier in the Pacific for any battle you can think of. This little boat put the Germans on alert and made them work for a living. I think it's such a cool story. Imagine being on those patrols. So amazing. Well, actually, probably boring as heck and tedious to boot. But what an adventure. Until next rope yarn, fair winds and semper yet.